If I would have had the same grasp of the internet that kids are growing up with now, I'd be coding, making music, writing concertos, all kinds of foolishness, man. Yeah, I can only imagine what I would try to do.
All right, today is Monday, September 27th, 2021. Who are we speaking with?
You are speaking with Eric EMan Clark, Liberate Recordings, New York, Chicago, Rum Brooklyn Tracks Company here in New York City, and a complete soldier of the movement that they have labeled house.
So well said. So well said. Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Let's see. I have 474 questions, but
Okay.
I'm going to start with this one. How did you get started in the music industry?
Well, I worked in a mom and pop record store in New Rochelle, New York, closer to my house. I'm originally from Mount Vernon. But I was working in a mom and pop record store called Paul's, right across the street from the Palace, which was the club that all Black people went to if they lived in that area. It was a well-known record store, and the people there were wonderful. Actually, I worked there first, and I started attending different meetings. Even though they had a mom and pop record store, they were involved with different record labels at the time, like Columbia, which is now Sony, but back in the day before 30 Rock, Columbia used to be in Long Island City, which a whole lot of people don't know, but it was in Long Island City, and they used to have an organization called Breakfast Club, which, you know, helped mom and pop record stores promote their product at the time, which was Earth, Wind and Fire, Alexander O'Neal, Michael Jackson, Public Enemy. So you really wanted to be a part of that, right? I mean, that was my first inkling of what it could be like to be involved in a record label. And a good friend of mine named Mike Jones, he used to work at Birdell's Records in Brooklyn. And he had got a job at Columbia. We started palling it up, and he kind of layered the inside track for me to get my first record job, which was it wasn't a record company job, but it was a way to find a way to get into the music industry. So, but Mike helped me get my first job, and that was at the Ritz, which is now Webster Hall, I think. But yeah.
Tell us about. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say that night, a young gentleman coming from London, who was originally from America, named Terrence Trent D'Arby, was showcasing his album with Columbia at the Ritz. Mike said to me as I was sitting there, you know, open barring it and, you know, looking over and just kind of like gazing in this hole. He said, listen, this is the kind of place that you have to, you know, get a job. A lot of industry people use this place. You could mingle. You could find out who would actually want to use you at a job, at a place like this. So I go, oh, so you're saying I should work here? I said, he goes, yeah. I go, well, all right, I'll see what I can do. He said, what do you mean you see what you can do? I said, you said I need to get a job here, so let me see if I can't do something. So he goes, no, you just don't walk up on places like this, jobs like they fall off the sky. I said, listen, man, if I get a job tonight, I mean, we're already drinking free and eating free and everything like this, but if I get a job right now, when I come back to this table, you can buy us a bottle of champagne and we'll split it with everybody here because I'll just get a new job. He goes, okay. So now the head of the department is one of the ladies that was in, you know, she was one of the people entertaining the whole event and all of that. So I grabbed her. I said, listen, I think I might need you to help me get a job here. She goes, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but just let me know what I can do. I'm more than happy to help. So I go downstairs. If you know anything about the way the Ritz or Webster Hall is, there's a There's a main floor and a balcony. We were in the balcony. I go downstairs and I see the security all wears numbered shirts. So I go and I stopped one of them. I said, "Who's the head of security here?" He goes, "He's a guy named Inez. He's standing right in the hallway right there." So I get a gander at him. I said, "Okay, thanks a lot." So I would go back upstairs. I find her. I said, "All right, I know how I'm going to get a job here." She says, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, this is what we're going to do. You're going to pull out your card. We're going to walk downstairs." And I mean, we're talking about a woman that's like on the Susan the Pass level, like beautiful, statuesque, Pebbles, or whichever one of those Motown execs you'd like to choose. But she was in that category of woman in a very sleek and wonderful red dress. So basically, every time she walked in either direction, most heads turned to check her out. So I said, "We're going to go down to this door. The guy in the door, his name is Inez. You're just going to tell him my name, and you're going to tell him that I just came off the road with Terrence Trent D'Arby, and now you're going to be touring in the city, I mean, all around the country. And, you know, we're not going to, they're going to be using the security like tonight in the venues that they go to. So she, you know, I would love you if you just let my friend here possibly get some shifts." Man, as soon as that lady walked up in that dress, homeboy came out of conversation, his eyes peeled on her. It was like boom. It was like he couldn't see, think, smell, nothing else besides her. So she goes, "You know, I really appreciate it if you could just consider him for something." He goes, "1 second." He goes to a little, he knocks on a door to his right. He goes in. He comes out 5 seconds later. He goes, "Yo, here's a W-2 form. You're working tomorrow night. It's Suzanne Vega. Be here about 6:45 so I could turn your W-2 in." And that's how I got the job. The lady, and then we go up the stairs, she goes, "Wow, man, that was completely incredible. I really should consider you for a promotion." I said, "Well, this is not my end all be all. Maybe you can see how I can operate." So we go back up to the table. I meet my friend Mike at the table. I have a seat. And I throw the W-2 on the table. He goes to buy a bottle of champagne. That's how I got my job. First job at the Ritz. That was my first job where I was a bouncer. I went from a bouncer to I did my first DJ gigs. Like I would say my first professional, I was playing music, but never in a big club like that. So I did, it was funny the kind of opportunities I was getting, believe it or not. Do you know the Obie Awards? Do you remember the Obie Awards?
Yeah.
They used to be televised when they first started on Channel 11. They had the Obie Awards at the Ritz. The lady who was normally playing rock and roll there, she would pick what she wanted to do. Some of the stuff she wouldn't do. She wouldn't do some R&B shows. She wouldn't do like stuff like this. So, yo, I told the manager, anytime he needed me, he gave me a couple of, chances. I rocked it. And I got so personal with it that she didn't like it at all, So she went to him and she told him, this is kind of, it's my gig. And, I should be able to say, what gigs I'm not going to do and what I'm going to do. The manager, Mike, he was a pistol too. He just said like, well, as long as I'm manager, I'm going to hire who I want to hire for these gigs. So that was the end of it. And I was doing both for a long time, actually. And I did that on 11th Street until the Ritz moved to 54th Street. And that was the beginning of what now is the beginning of my quest for a music industry job.
Wow, what a story. That's incredible.
Yeah, I think, it's a great lead-in for a book or a movie too. That's what I've been trying to cultivate for a long time. I've been talking to some people, man, but it's a great lead-in for a movie. Because,
Fantastic.
Thanks.
After the Ritz, Well, actually, describe the Ritz for people that don't know. This isn't your typical house club like Cielo. Describe the venue, the scale, the type of acts that perform there, the dress code, a typical night as a bouncer. Like, paint the picture for us.
Okay, well, let's call it what it was. The Ritz was a premier rock and roll venue, one of the premier rock and roll venues in New York City, especially in Lower Manhattan. Like at that time, you know, you had your mud clubs and danceterias and clubs. You had the Saint, you had Robot, you had the World, you know, Garage and Loft and stuff like that. You had real clubs, but the Ritz was a rock and roll venue. They had live rock and roll events. And from time to time, they would do, other than that, they would do soul groups and jazz groups, not too often, but, and anything cutting edge that was Black, they would do too. Like, that's where I met Fishbone. That's where Living Color performed. That's where my cousin's band, 24/7 Spies, got a chance to meet Fishbone and work with them and all that kind of thing. So the venue, it was a great place for me to get a musical knowledge, because once I left there, I had almost seen became friends with Joey Ramone and got to experience them and their music, and Motorhead and Meatloaf and Chuck Berry and B.B. King and Albert King and Coco Taylor. Yeah, I mean, it was a tapestry of so much musical for a person like me who really embraces music more so than a genre. It was possibly the best job I've had in my life that led to other things, but there was nothing like getting paid to see live entertainment every night. Mostly I was there to be kind of a referee, but I wasn't one of those heavy-handed bouncers. I was more into, if people got drunk or something, I was more into trying to sober them up, get them some water, let them stick their head out the door, get some air, see if you couldn't bring them around before you threw them out or something like that. But every now and then you had tussles, but it came with it. But I can't say I really, it was just a part of life that was a learning experience, like most things, man. I really found out very quickly that, they didn't really care too much about what a Black person really had to say about too much of anything. You know what I mean? It was
Unpack that.
Well, what I mean by that is, on certain levels, certain ways and actions, like the way you would talk to when there was a reggae show coming in, and how you're supposed to treat people, and when there's rock and roll people there, like the Hells Angels, it's very, it's okay if they slap around a customer or something like that. Just don't get involved. That's what they used to tell us. Don't try to intercede in something that because the Hells Angels were all friends of the owner. So you had to kind of like pick your battles and how, you had to deal with things. And then you just had to I was dealing with a whole bunch of security cats from Jersey. There was some real cool cats that I worked with too, but there was a lot of assholes from Jersey who just was on whatever they was on. And, we was from New York, they was from Jersey. They used to also work Meadowlands and all that other bigger stadium stuff. So, when they see somebody like Stanley Clark, they ain't gonna give him his props. They're gonna say he's just masturbating all over his instrument. Me. I was like, okay, I get it. But oh my God, let Eric Clapton walk in the room. Oh my God, people breaking into tears, and oh my God, he's the best guitarist I've ever seen. I was like, Slow Hand is dope. But I did see Al Di Meola here. I did see Pat Metheny here. I saw a lot of nasty guitar players in a lot of bands. So he was one of many, that's for sure. And he definitely had his own signature, but it was just one place that was, I can't even explain to you how much music I was exposed to, because it was hardcore, 9 Inch Nails, Butthole Surfers, Gigi Gigi Allen. I don't know if you know anything about a Gigi Allen show, but this was straight loon who was damn near naked, you know, going to the bathroom on stage, throwing it on the audience. Oh, it was just, you know, I was trying to take off nights like that. Why I'd wear a rain suit or some crazy foolishness, but there was just a lot going on, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful musical education. So I really appreciate the time I spent there.
How long were you at the Ritz?
From the time I got there until the time they moved to 54th Street, which I'm shady on the years.
Oh, that's fine. And then after the Ritz, where did you go to next?
I worked at the Ritz when it moved uptown, and I stayed there for, I don't know, a year or so, and then I ran into a couple of people who just felt like I just had too much. I had too much power as just a bouncer. You know, they were just like, you know, managers coming in. Why does this guy do this? Why did he do that? You know, so, you know, there was one guy who had it out for me. So I stopped doing security there. Then they hired me to do something like a day security job where I just sat there while the box office girl, you know, sold tickets for the show, like that, and stuff like that.
Talk to us about the transformation from EMan the Ritz to EMan DJ, celebrity, touring.
Oh,
you know.
God, I don't even know him. That guy, but yo,
talk to us about that transition.
I would truly like to meet him. Well, what happened was, most of the time, I moved down. You know, I moved down from Westchester to Manhattan. I started dating a young lady and lived in the East Village. I live right on Houston. So when I lived down there, I just got engulfed in the mix. People had already saw me from the club. Now I'm working down there. So all of my security cats, now that I'm a neighborhood cat, you know, I just got indoctrinated into the more like, you know, you want to work at Robot, you want to work at, you know, I'm doing stuff at CB's, and I was kind of like a, you know, I knew the guys who mostly worked there. So anytime they needed an extra person, I was working until, you know, I started putting security forces together for events for people. That's how much I was working. So I was doing stuff like, there was a real popular hip hop party here called Car Wash. It was at a place called Quando's Gym that used to be on 2nd. And they used to do, they were breaking basically, you know who it was done by? Amanda Shear. Are you familiar with that name? I'm sure you are. Amanda Shear was, she was married to one of the guys on MTV who died. I forget what his name was, but Amanda was a promoter here. Then she moved, she married him. She's a very successful photographer now and all that, but she's the one who did this car wash party. And, you know, she was breaking Boogie Down, Brand Nubian, Puffy Zax. You know, this was the first time that people were coming to these shows live, seeing these groups perform. And it was a real host of, you know, who are now almost like the creme de la creme. They're like the old school of hip hop now, the old guard. But she broke all of that. That kind of like got me off into a place where, but I still didn't have the label job until, it's funny how I got that too. All right, you know, in the meantime, while doing the security and stuff, I still at the same time was collecting records. You know what I mean? Going places. You know, I started going to Save the Robot. I met Smash Hunter and Romaine, and these cats were playing Robot. So I started going there. I was Regs. So me and Smash started hanging out so much that people thought we were related. And, you know, he was like, yo, man, you need to come up to Tommy Boy with me one day. You know what I mean? Get some records, blah, 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 and stuff like that. So I was like, all right. So I rolled up there with him one day. This is when Tommy Boy was still on 90th and First Avenue. You know, it was pretty far uptown, you know. And I went up there We went to the dance department. There was a young man there named Terry Perkins. The same Terry Perkins whose father, Frank Perkins, owns Frank's. And started going there, getting records from another person that people swear is my family. But met Terry, and I was like, look, man, what's job line? What's the job line on here? So another situation arose where he goes, yo, Monica Lynch is the person you gotta win her over if you really want the job, because you gotta, there's a position that you might be able to get doing promotion. So, but you gotta, he said, but yo, Monica is playing at some place downtown. So we're just gonna roll up and you can meet her. So another one of those opportunities that I took, I was like, what the hell do I have to lose? So she's DJing. He shows up. She speaks to Terry. She goes, oh, by the way, this is my friend Eric. I shake her hand. I said, Monica, it's nice to meet you. I'm going to be the guy that you're giving that promotion slot that's open to. And then I walk away, nice to meet you. Walk away. And Monica said, who the hell is he? Who is that guy? And then he told her and stuff like that. He's like, yo, he's downtown, this and that. So I met her, and, next thing I knew, I was working at Tommy Boy. That's how it was like, basically I was walking into jobs that easy. It wasn't like, resume. I probably did put together a resume, because I remember getting this gray flannel resume. It was gray flannel. It wasn't the scent of gray flannel, but it was the color gray flannel on with light gray. Oh, it just looked like some real extra foolishness, but it got me the job there, man. So then I worked there, and I met some amazing people there too. I met Stefan, I met De La, I met Latifah, Lisa Stansfield, Cold Cut, Shirley Thunder, George Clinton. There was just a lot of people coming through Tommy Boy all the time. Bambaataa. It was just endless people that were always there,
Wow.
Okay, so now you're actually me there. Now you're caught up to me being, I'm actually still haven't done the first party yet, but now I am doing promotion for Tommy Boy, going to industry parties, juicing DJs. Now I'm meeting the Red Alerts. They're knowing me on first name basis, the Clark Kents, the Superman, all the DJs. I'm their friend now because I'm slinging Tommy Boy product, everybody needs Humpty Dance, you know what I'm saying? Everybody needs De La. Everybody needs Stet. So I was that guy for a minute. And then a minute later, I wasn't that guy anymore. So after that, man, I just felt like there was anything I could do. I went from that to doing videos. I went from going to do videos. I started doing television and movie production. I was every kind of production assistant that you could name. But at the same time, it just gave me a wealth of information about how media really operates on so many different levels, man. It was the kind of education that you'd like to get. If you're not paying for it, you're getting paid for it, and you're learning things by bumping your head a lot. Because when you bump your head, you pretty much remember it most times. So there was a lot of that, and there was a lot of harsh realities too that you had to deal to on all levels too. But
like what?
Much like the rock and roll industry, the film industry was very quick to tell you that you're just a black guy too. They're very much on you're just a black guy. I mean, I worked a whole lot of movies and television shows, but it seems like all of the, it looks like all the production, like if they're crewing up to staff a production, and then they have the in-house production PAs and stuff like that. That's where Becky and Karen and little Ken and all of those. They're the production PAs for the office. I was the production assistant when we had to go to the hood. When we had to go to the hood, I was on every shot, on every set. You know what I'm saying? Being that guy, you know, some big black guy in the black neighborhood who's supposed to save them from the natives. It was kind of like set up like that. But then I worked with some people, they kind of like me, you know, and I just took another opportunity to try to make something happen, and it did. And it came with it, you know, once people do things for you and you're in the position to see where they're coming from, once power shifts, you can see how them, you know, giving you the opportunity was, I don't know if you can say it was false lived, but it was under a pretense that, yo, it's going to be good and I'm going to bring everybody along and all of this. But then once you're in it, you see how those same individuals try to take advantage of you know, disrespect you, talk to you the way that they would never talk to you in the street. Just wrong and disrespectful sometimes. So, but then in certain situations, you have to learn to deal to that without losing. You have to really learn some kind of psychological couth to dealing with situations where you can't blow off your steam, or you just can't wear every emotion on your sleeve, so to speak. You have to really kind of pepper. You just have to kind of like give people doses of you, but not enough to get you fired, because if you're fired, they're continuing to work and they just frustrated you to the point where you could, you know, lose a job. I tried not to be that, but like I said, I had good runs on certain situations, and then like I was doing parties and like playing like rap parties and stuff like that for the TV shows that I was working on and stuff like that. So that got me like the DJ. I knew I could do it. You know what I mean? But never once really thought about doing a house party yet until, you know, I was going to Vinyl Mania and Dance Tracks and whatever the other store was there on Bowery there. I forget the name of it, but I was going places, buying records and making relationships with people like Adam and, you know, I guess some of the people in Dance Tracks and stuff like that. And then one day Adam said to me, Adam Scott. I asked Adam Scott one day when he was working in Vinyl Mania. I said, yo, you're a talented DJ. Why aren't you playing somewhere where I could come hear you play? Nah, it ain't like that. You just can't do that. You got to do this and you got to do that. In house music, I was getting the house music manifesto. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can only be done in a big club. Blah blah blah. This and that. I was like, yeah. I said. He said, what do you mean? Another one of them situations. What do you mean? Yeah. I said, well, I think I'm going to find somewhere to do a party. And you know what? I'm going to make you a resident of the party. I'm going to make you one of the residents. I'm going to make a couple of you guys from different record stores the residents and see how y'all do. And that's how Bang the Party started. But me and Lorie did a party before Bang the Party. But it was good too. And that's really where we kind of like, after we did that party, me and Lorie thought we could really do anything. And we quickly found out that we could not do everything, but we just gave it a very good run. We did give it a good run though, because people told us, you know, when I first did Bang, man, people were telling me foolishness like, oh yeah, you know, as soon as this one or that one plays at Shelter, or, you know, or wherever, you're gonna be empty and blah 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 blah. And it was like all these parties were going in and out of there in those venues, and my venue was getting packed out every week with the television people. So the people who I was working for, they were like, dude, I don't even care about this. They didn't even care about the house music element. At that time, I was playing house music for it. No, at first I was playing, we were playing like a mixed bag, like soul, hip hop, breaks and stuff like that. because I was playing for people who were in that culture, you know. New York Undercover, that show was R&B hip hop. So that's what I did. I'm showing slides from the show, all kinds of stuff. Ice-T is coming, all kinds. It was just like all kinds of celebrities were coming to it. So it started to get its own name, and we started to do things. And then John Davis wanted his ass in. And, you know, he attended a couple of times. And then after he goes, yeah, you know, I think I'm going to do a party. I'm going to do a party something like this, but a little different. I guess that's what he was trying to convince himself, that it was a little different. That's how Legends became at Life, you know, because it was supposed to be so much different than the party I was doing, even though I was having the top flight people from house music at that time play. I was having Dave Morales was ready to play. I fucked that up. But
how'd you fuck that up?
Oh my God, man. I was overzealous in the worst time of my life. The one time, first of all, I knew David for a long time. I had knew David since the Ozone Layer. And we were always friends, and he was always friendly to me. And I used to always go watch him play and hang out with him, Zanzibar, Inferno, wherever it was, I used to go. So of course, when I did a party, David was like, of course I'll play it. Don't worry about it. So my stupid ass, so David gets there, he unpacks his record. So his records are unpacked, and he turns his back and he's talking to his manager as the record was gonna end. So I started another record, and he wasn't even playing. It was just like, I started another record. He said, yo, man, yo, I'm out of here, man. Yo, don't ever ask me to play again. It was just like that fucking quick, and he walked out. And I haven't talked to David since, man. You know what I'm saying? And I've more than once apologized to him and whatever, because it happened a long, long time ago, but it did happen. And I learned a valuable lesson. And I held it to this day. I said, I'm never going to be this guy so anxious to play again that I have to interrupt someone that is way more famous than me and not show them the respect that they're due when they step into a DJ booth. But that's how that happened. But you live, you learn, and you know, you move past it. You know what I mean? So
let's go back. Let's go back a little bit. You talked about film and television. Tell people which film and TV shows you worked on.
New York Undercover, Cosby Mysteries, Law and Order, Carlito's Way. Wow, a lot.
That's good.
A lot of movies, like a lot of major movies were here. A Home Alone 2, a lot of films, and just a couple of shows. But for a while, that's all I was doing was just production for, like I said, for movies and stuff. You know, big ones. Batman, worked on that. The more I think, then I did my run with Spike. I worked on Crooklyn, and the first Spike movie I worked was it was first called Go Natalie. It became Strictly Business, but yeah, it was good. He was a good mentor too, man. Because Spike didn't play, man. He didn't play. You know what I mean? He was on some Brooklyn shit, and yo, he you know, I appreciate working with him too, because he didn't try to sugarcoat anything. You know, if he had to bring it to you, he brought it. He meant it too. And you know, that was something else to take with me as I pursued any kind of endeavor. You know, it was really, he was a good person to work for and learn from.
And then you talked about doing your party and doing some parties before Bang with Laurie. How did you meet Laurie?
I met Laurie. Do you know, by any chance, do you know this African brother who used to do security named Tiam? Tiam used to work he was a very popular security person. And then he started promoting his own events And he started doing the hip hop party at Don Hill's. That was real popular. And he, again, one day I was doing something and he said, yeah, if you want to promote your event, man, you got to go to Paper Magazine. Lorie was the club editor at Paper. So that's how I met Lorie. I met her behind the desk at Paper Magazine. When I saw her, I was completely smitten, you know what I mean? And then at that time I was doing a party at Frank's called Hot Buttered Soul. And I invited Lorie and she came and we hung out. And then, you know, I tried to see her as much as I could, you know? And she, you know, she was approachable, but you know, she was really no pushover, which I kind of like too. I like a challenge. So, you know, we just, you know, we struck up a friendship and then we took it next level. And then 6 years later, you know, we were together. So it was pretty cool. You know, she was a good person, man. She's still a good person, man. So I had a lot of fun with her, man. I really did. We enjoyed a lot of good times together.
So Bang the Party.
Yes.
How did you come up with the name? Tell us about the concept. Who were some of the guest DJs you had there?
Bang the Party. Yo, listen, I took about 5 minutes to labor over the name. Lorie hated that name. Because I kept going, I want to go bang. I want to go bang. And she's like, what's this with the bang? I was like, yo, I want to go bang. And then I was like, Bang the Party. That's it. Bang the Party. She was like, okay, I get you. She was never really on board with the name, but she just went with it. And that's how it started, man. That's how this all became what it is, you know. But yeah, she went with it and then we started doing it and it was very good. And we did it in several different places, 205, we did it 13, we did it at 85 10th Avenue, we did it at Baktoon. We were one of the first parties in the city to be by borough. Like we were doing the party in Manhattan a couple of weeks out the month, and then we were at Frank's a couple of weeks of the month until everything got so hectic in the city. And we were both living in Brooklyn then. We just pulled up and were like, you know, I think we're just gonna do Frank's full time. And that's how it happened, just that easy. And we just transitioned to 2 weeks to every week at Frank's. And that's when the madness began, right there, boy. Because
you guys had a 10-year run at Frank's, right?
Not 6. We had a 6-year run. We had a 6-year run. We had a 6-year run at the party altogether with all the places it was. It was at Frank's, then it was at 667, then it was at Caviar Studios. Then we went back into the city to Opaline. And I liked Opaline, but we stayed there a couple of months. And then, we went there a couple of months and then we went to Caviar Studios and that's when we ended the party. And I remember the last night we had Tortured Soul.
So this is what I remember at Bang the Party, because at that time I was living in Brooklyn. I knew that no matter what, if I got there around 12:31, that's when you would peak the party and people would be losing their shit. You'd be playing something that would just make like clockwork. I could be crazy busy at work and not go for like 2 or 3 weeks, but I know around 1 o'clock in the morning, EMan is gonna play that shit. Describe a typical night at Frank's Lounge at Bang the Party. Tell us about Frank's Lounge, the venue, and tell us about Brooklyn at that time versus Brooklyn today.
Okay, just don't understand. Before us promoting Brooklyn, Paper Magazine wasn't promoting any party about Brooklyn, okay? And then years later, we're in New York Magazine being one of the 100 things to do on New Year's Eve. New York Magazine, no less. You know, but like you said, I felt very comfortable at Frank's for several reasons. I had done parties there with Terry and his family for years, and much longer before I started doing stuff at you know, I was always very comfortable in that spot, and I was sharing it with a lot of DJs that played. That I kind of like. I loved a lot of the DJs that I played with. So my thing was never to overshine a DJ, but I really wanted to make it hot by the time the DJ got on, so that he was not going to half step into his set. He was going to come in like a lion and want to just kind of rip things. I felt like my job was. And then sometimes I would play after. Sometimes I would let the DJ play all the way out. It depends on who it was and what kind of night they were having. But that's the kind of vibe I used to set there. Franks was just straight up buck wild. I mean, in the beginning, we was up in that bitch till like 5 or 6 in the morning, coming out, going right across the street to the Diner Academy diners, having breakfast there, taking over the whole diner. You know, poor Tula and Tommy, man, you know, people coming out of Frank's all wild out and, you know, bringing their foolishness right into the diner early in the morning. And then like I lived, like my time in Brooklyn, I lived, you know, the furthest I lived was St. James. But then when I moved down closer to Frank's, I was on South Oxford, South Portland, and South Elliott. They're right next to each other. And those are the places I was living. So I was very close to Frank's. So not only was I in there on Fridays, but I was in there when I got off work. I was in there to, like, you know, stopping in after work, get my laundry or whatever I was doing, go to get my Chinese food or whatever I was doing. I spent a lot of time there, you know what I mean? But, you know, we tried things there that hadn't been done before. I got an exchange with DJs from Chicago, brought them there for the first time, you know what I mean? And just a lot of things that we did there, people did after, but no one did before. We like opened the door to let people know kind of like what was possible. And it was crazy. It was quite a time. So
no, it was incredible. What happened? So New York and dance music in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. What happened besides the Loft, Studio 54, Peter Gation, and Rudy Giuliani?
Giuliani was the most crippling effect out of all of the people you mentioned, because he was the one who implemented the cabaret licensing. He was the one who he tried to gentrify. You know, he wanted to overdo the East Village. Like when me and Lorie, the party that we did in the East Village was called G-Force. And it was done at 85 Avenue Way. That's when it was called Chameleon Lounge. That was before it was down in the basement. It was right next door to the Japanese restaurant. And we were doing the party there. And we caught on like wildfire, to the point where the New York Post took a picture of the line stretching from the front of the door all the way around the corner, from the middle of Avenue A all the way around almost to 8th, to 7th Street, because it was between 6th and 7th to 7th. And they were like, oh, all these people from Bridge and Tunnel invading the mom and pop stores. It was at night, man. There was no mom and pop stores open. But they kind of fabricated like it was an invasion of the you know, suburbites coming to take over, you know, the East Village or whatever. But it was a bleak picture they painted, but it just made us more popular. But like good things all do, we had a good run there, and we were able to establish kind of like a possibility of what we could do and not do. So we just went into the rest of our kind of ventures with a little more insight and how to do and what to do. We just, like I said, when you bump your head, you try not to bump it twice, we haven't talked about Deep Sea at all because that's a whole version too.
Let's get into that. What is Deep Sea? Tell us about the name and the party.
Okay, Deep Sea was a creation that I started with Lola. When Lola was, big up Lola. Lola's now chilling in Costa Rica, teaching yoga. Big up. And I wanted to, at this point, I'm like not afraid to play anywhere. I'm playing all over the East Village and all kinds of stuff like that. But I still wanted kind of like my own party where I could be a resident. So when I approached Johannes Sapphire, he just agreed to let me try to do stuff. So then he hired me as a DJ who was playing there. And on nights that, the club wasn't doing nothing, I would play. And then I told him I was going to do a night. I did nights for a while. And then I just had this thing that, Lola wanted to become a better DJ and she wanted to do a party. So we started Deep Sea, man. And it was really nice because what that party turned into was a real haven for breaking new music. Because me and Lola were some of the first people to really do broken beat on a grandiose level. And, we brought Detroit DJs before Williamsburg had exploited them. But we were bringing the Rick Will Heights and had Kenny Dixon rolling through, and Mike Huckabee was a friend of mine. And, we had choice cats from New York, Detroit, and Chicago coming. My label mate, Doc Link, he was, he would come. We had so many, the choice, it was funny. I was looking maybe at a flyer that was 10 years old or 15 years old, and we saw the lineup, and I posted it. I said, could you, and this is like, I can't even know what, in 2000s, it was early. I said, could you imagine this kind of lineup now, where people would pay to see a lineup? It was ridiculous. I'm gonna find the flyer, I'm gonna send it to you. But some of the lineups we had were, when I look at them now, they were none short of amazing. It was really a lot of good talent, man, charismas and, all these, Quentin Harris and everybody else, it was quite a round robin of talent going on that wanted to play and wanted to be heard, man. So it was just an amazing time, man. It was, we were talking about that and we were saying how really lucky we were to experience it, to the end. And when Spider came into the group, it took another dimension where he was a little harder and he took it there and we followed him, you know what I mean? And now him and Lola, Lola's a part of his record label Plan B now, so everything just turned out the way I guess it was supposed to, man,
That I was talking to somebody recently about Deep Sea and how we didn't realize it at the time, but that was the epicenter of the New York City house scene at its peak. I mean, you had Osunlade coming to hang out, you had Dennis Ferrer, you had like
hang out there. A lot of people, first of all, the room was very comfortable. And people felt real good about falling in there. It was a house dive, if so to speak. It wasn't too highbrow. You could come in, look at any kind of way almost, and still kind of like leave the way you came in and get what you need, So it really had a great mystique, you know what I mean? A lot of people, and there was a lot of, I wasn't the only one. Disciple did some beautiful things there. Just a lot of different people. A lot of people, oh man, I'm forgetting his name and it's really irking me.
Check the House Nation?
No. What is Adam Goldstone? Did wonderful. Sapphire. Yeah, man. Adam. He did some real nice things there. It was crazy. Like him, so many people, man. that came through, man, and showed us love, man. It was, yeah, like I said,
it was like it was there, and then also when you were around the corner at Idlewild, you also had Kai with House to Learn, right? In the beginning of the nights.
We let Kai do House to Learn for a little while, and while me and that was a deep sea party too.
Yeah,
when we went down to Idlewild.
Exactly.
You know?
And
Yeah.
it became kind of a informal industry night where everyone from the industry would just come and hang out. Like you'd see like, all your favorite heroes.
You see Camacho sitting at a table with Todd Terry.
Yes, exactly. Todd Terry would just roll up. Camacho would be there. You name it.
Yeah, a lot of people came through. And then what's funniest about it, most people would show up to let us know they wanted to play. They would just be like, yo, so, what is it? Depending, like if it was something, well, Camacho never needed an invitation to play anything where I played. He played anywhere that I played, he knew he could play. But, Kerry played there, Dennis played there.
Jerome, everybody.
Yeah, Jerome, everybody, man. It was, bringing things all the way full circle. Now that, like I just did last week with Jerome, my first techno track that I produced. And he's working on it now. Him, Mike Clark, possibly Keith Worthy is going to do a mix, but definitely Mike and Jerome are working on versions now. It's called Activate, and we're working on that. And that seems to be the constant in my life now, not to performing out so much, which I am going to get back to, but I've only played once since COVID. I played with Becky at Now and Then, and I had a great time. It was wonderful. And I play anywhere for Becky, man, because she's been cool, and I was glad to bring her into the household, and she's been very successful, and I'm proud for her. I'm happy that, she wrote it out, and now she's getting the spoils, so it's kind of cool.
Talk to us about your transition from DJ to songwriter, musician, artist. So tell us about how some of these tracks came together, like I Am the Road or Running Up in Brooklyn.
Okay. The whole writing, me and writing. Now I have a degree in speech and communications, right? A double major, right? But I never really, I always kind of wanted to be a radio DJ, kind of. And, but I never saw myself as a spoken word artist or a vocalist or anything like that. But when I was doing the parties and we were getting popular and I'm getting written up in different magazines and stuff like that. And I'm saying, yo, so you're writing about me, what do I have to do? So, I want to come over there and play. And blah, blah. They were like, yo, EMan, we'd love to, but you really, you have to put some music out, so that we could bring you here. That's the only way that we could we bring producers that play me, have music out and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, damn. So I did one track on Hip Bone with Sweet Sable called Day by Day. Then I started messing around with what was possible. And then I got comfortable enough at it, though, that, by the time I got with John Cutler and did It's Yours, that, that let me know that I could write a song. And I only wrote it in 20 minutes. That John is still like, that was a funny story. He had a hot date. He was like, yo, man, just, beginning, middle, ending, blah, 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 this and that. Cause I tried to sneak in some kind of clowny foolishness. He was like, nah, man, write me, beginning, middle, and ending, so I did. And that was It's Yours. And then I knew I could write a song. So we went from there, but I Am the Road was inspired by Lorie. Lorie was the original writer. I only co-wrote I Am the Road to what Lorie started. She made a kind of a template for I Am the Road, like what she wrote and then what she heard. It was kind of her. It was wonderful the way she explained it. She was like, yeah, you know, it's like the way home seems so far, like I look upon the stars, and then there's a part where there's a dancing flute, because that's how she described it to me. Yeah, there's a dancing flute and blah, 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 this and that. I said, dancing flute? She goes, yeah. So once Joe B said to me, he said, yo, listen, there's a guy in Stockholm named Marcus Anoxen. He wants to work with you, man. You know, he's willing to bring you to Stockholm. You're going to do some writing and you guys are going to make some music together. So he put that together. Marcus brought me over there that weekend. I completed I Am the Road and Musical Prayer that weekend. I was there. I got there on a Saturday. We were in the studio all day Saturday and Sunday. And I flew out of that bitch Monday. And yo, we had written I Am the Road and Musical Prayer. And at the time said that we were going to, you know, we were saying who should have them. But he always knew that we wanted to give Louis I Am the Road. But I never thought that. I let Francois hear some of the stuff. One of his representatives came to my house to hear it. And when he heard Musical Prayer, he was like, we want that. That's us. We want that. So that's how I signed. You know, I had that, and I did that, and then I did. What was? Which one did I do for Nervous? I did. What's the name? What did I do? Caves of Altamira, which is a Steely Dan track, you know, and I covered it. And, you know, then it was that, and then there was the Jellybean releases and all that. But, you know, the more I work with artists and their labels, the more I learned about the music industry and the bad underseat of advantage that's taken by the liberties that are taken by people who deem to have your best interest in mind when they really don't. So you learn a valuable lesson, man. You can't come into the game blind because, like I said, the kind of bump in your head you can do in that industry could knock your head off. So you got to be careful, you know.
How has the internet changed the economics of DJing?
I don't know. I really don't know how it's changed it, but I always feel like there's going to be a need for people to see DJs live. I'm not talking about in their bedroom. I'm not talking about in their studio. I'm talking about there's still a need for a DJ to play in front of an audience live and be able to move and make them dance and send them to somewhere completely that they could never get watching Twitch or wherever you watch. You couldn't find it anywhere, you know. Excuse me. But I do play, but and I have a radio show weekly, but you know, even though I do, excuse me for a minute. A little cold, but I'm not sure how, you know, there's DJs who like it a lot. There's DJs who like to play live, you know, on the video, but I don't really get any joy out of that. I much rather, even my radio show now that I do, I'm not, you know, you're not seeing me on a video. I'm playing music, but I have other graphics running while the show's going on for my 2 hours a week. And now I'm getting ready to, I just got offered a syndicated show on radio where I'm going to be doing a funk show, funk and soul and stuff like that that's nationally syndicated, and my first shows with that start in October, and it's going to be called Soul Biscuits. And but like I said, any lane that a DJ needs to pursue to enhance his career or do what he thinks he needs to do for his career, I embrace it, and I don't judge or anything like that. People have to do what they have to do to survive, you know what I mean? Or especially in times like this with the limited places that you can go to play. So yes, like the pecking order hasn't really changed. I mean, the Tonys, the Louis, the Dannies, and the Dannies, and all of those, they'll always be here in New York. They'll always be the guys that get venues first, do what they need to do first. Those are the DJs that they're going to pick. But there are other ones now too. I mean, other DJs have come up, but I just don't depend on it anymore. I just wait. I just allow people who like me to like me, and hear me when they need to hear me. And like I said, I do travel, so I just go where people like to hear me play,
Do you still go record shopping? Why or why not? And if so, where?
I really do not go record shopping because I was walking with a walker now. You know what I'm saying? I'm rehabbing a leg. So the thought of me even carrying a record now is, it's not really on the top of my list of things to do. But I'm not above going in the record store. I'm not even, I don't even have my I don't even really play vinyl too much. You know what I mean? Every now and then, but not too much. So I'm a file guy. You know what I mean? Files work for me. I can hop on my ass to a club with my files and do what I got to do. You know what I mean? And get it done. But I might have to go to a cardiac the next day, messing around with some vinyl. But, it just is what it is.
What's the number one problem facing underground dance music today versus back in the day when they wouldn't play house music on the radio in the 90s? There's no way the freedom we had. There's no comparison to what we went through. It just could never happen in a time like this. The things that we experienced with police and zoning and stuff like that, there's no way that you can do that now. There's no way you could reproduce what we came through in like the eight. Hold on. Okay.
See you, love you, take care.
See you, love you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
Good night. That's my beautiful mother, who's going to be 90 in November.
Oh, nice.
But and like I said, it was a different time period that we lived, that we were lucky to live through, because you're just not duplicating the way. You can't duplicate the East Village to be what it used to be when it had all those clubs, when it had Robot in the World right down the street and the Loft right around the corner from that. They're not doing that anymore. They're not making any situation like that. They're not making tunnels anymore. They're not making any of those kind of vibes that were the pulse of the city at the time. There's no Mud Club. There's no Danceteria. There's nothing like that. There's a couple of scenes like bars and places where people go and drink and socialize, beer houses and stuff like that. But there is no real club like a Club USA. There's no club like a Limelight. These were super clubs. The only one that I could think of, what's the one on 10th Avenue?
Cielo?
No, not on 10th, not on Little West 12th, on 10th. And
oh yeah, that big club. It's like
Yeah.
a fancy, yeah.
that
Marquee.
like which one?
It's a Marquee.
Marquee. Yep. That's the only club that I can remember that kind of like stood the test of time, maybe. I know that like Martinez brothers could play there still and stuff like that, but I used to play a little bar right next to that. I forget the name of it, but I used to go there all the time. And a lot of people used to fall out of Marquee and go there and have a drink or whatever, and then fall back into the big club or whatever. But I just don't think that New York will ever be, I don't have to guess it. It's never going to come back to that prominence again socially. They just wouldn't allow for it. The city wouldn't allow for it. But now with things the way they are now, it's a whole new, there's a you know, the move of conservatism here in the country now, and it's you know, it's just morally not the same, you know. I can't see it happening. I don't see how it could.
What's the role of a DJ biography in documenting the history of disco and post-disco dance music scene?
I don't know. Maybe what his journey is. I mean, I would only speak when I did the documentary that I did it through my lens and the experiences that I and the people that went on the journey with me experienced. But you can only tell your experiences, and you know, some documentaries were better at that. You know what I mean? There's ones that mine wasn't really talking about the music so much more as it was the environment and the climate. But there's a whole lot of other documentaries where they definitely focus in on the music and how, like I saw great ones about Chicago and how the Chicago movement took over Hacienda in the UK, and that documentary I really liked because it really explained how kids from Chicago kind of like invaded London, like the Beatles invaded America and took house music to London, and that's where it really came into prominence, you know?
Define soulful house.
I don't know, music derived from gospels, soul, jazz, funk, made in the tempos between 128 and 117 to make people dance, perhaps. That's what it is for me.
Is there a Brooklyn sound?
Well, Ian Friday certainly seems to think so. Yeah, there is. He's right. I mean, there are other places too, but Brooklyn is much more ethnic than all other boroughs. You know, it's like real culturally, you know, you hear, you know, I mean, I'm sure I can hear drums in other boroughs, but I always heard drums in Brooklyn, you know. They're like a message was being sent through them. Like most Sundays, I used to ride in the park and stuff like that. And, you know, you could drum circles and stuff like that went on. So he's right. I mean, the Brooklyn sound definitely is more organic, more African based, more African rhythmic. It's very, it kind of like hits you in your spirit, or it attempts to.
What do you want your legacy to be?
That I made music that will long live past me. Music that will last years after EMan expires. That music will still be played and enjoyed by hopefully a lot of people.
Advice to the next generation.
Find an old person that could give you some knowledge about how it was and find out what your signature, try to find your signature sound, and don't worry about emulating other DJs that you might admire. Try to find out what your signature is. Because once you do that, you're able to, you can really define what your sound is, and you can add, and you know, you can really add strength to it, and you know, embrace it like other DJs that have done it, you know, like a Louis Vega or a Dave Morales or someone like that. They have a sound, they have a signature. So you can only work on what your signature should be, but you should really try to find out who you are as a DJ.
Describe the feeling when you're DJing and you have the crowd in the palm of your hand.
Oh man, well, it's just funny, man. It's just funny. Everybody has, you know, most DJs get to live that feeling at least once. But, you know, knowing that you could lose them, you know, it's very humbling, because you might even have them, but, you know, one bad record, you know, you part the seas. So you revel in your moment, and you continue to try to be on whatever wave you're on. You try to stay on that wave, you know, and it's there's nothing. It's euphoric. I mean, there's nothing that, you know, when people are calling back to you or screaming or something like that, you're like, am I doing all of that? You know what I mean? But it's a great feeling. Every DJ wants to live that, I think, you know.
As a DJ, how do you feel about the dance circle?
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Listen, good dancers, they need to showcase their skills. They need to, dance circles don't do nothing. You know who doesn't like dance circle? Bar owners don't like circles. Not so much the DJs. DJs don't mind dance circles, but bar owners hate circles. Why? Because now they believe that those dancers intimidate the people who don't dance as good as them from dancing. Well, but at the same time, I thought that wouldn't be a bad thing, because they would be closer to the bar, but he feels like they would interact more if there weren't circles. That's how they feel about circles. I don't care about a circle. I know that I'm being effective if I got some circles going.
Dream collaborations. Who would you love to do a record with, or do a DJ gig with, or produce a record with? If money and budget and connections were no problem at all, you can snap your fingers, it happen tomorrow.
Like Steve Bug, like because V has made some records with Steve, but I wouldn't mind working with Steve Bug, or I haven't made a record with Osunlade, but I wouldn't mind making a record with him too. I like his style. I've worked with a lot of producers that I cherished, so, but I really, you know, I don't know. Actually, you know, I'm trying to do a record with Strafe, and I've been trying to do that for a while, but I'm just trying to make sure that the writing's right. But I look forward to that if we ever get it done. But he's a collaboration person that I don't need a nickel to do it. And I want to do a record with Randy Muller too.
How do you prepare for DJ sets?
My process is so much different now. I find out how much time I'm playing. If it's like 2 hours, you know, in most realities, 20 records will, you know, 20 records will give you a 2-hour set. So if I put 40 records in there, that's more than enough to do a 2-hour set where I have everything that I possibly could need you know, well, it's not going to be boring. And I just play them from end to end. I could move it around. 40 records. I prepare that way, find out what I want to play. I just approach it different now. Before, like when it's carry records, you used to act like you had to bring every record that you ever wanted, like, you know, the Easy Mo B theory. Yeah, I love Mo, man, because Mo to every gig brings like 6 crates of records and not touch 3 of them, and still doesn't even care at the end of the night. He just lugs them out like, you know, if they had to be there. But I just kind of like prep for the gigs now, make a flash drive to reflect the kind of night that I'm trying to go, depending on the slot that I'm playing and stuff like that, and just go to it. You know what I mean? And hope for the best.
If you were to look back in your career, DJ career, music career, whatever, what would you do differently?
Wish I was a little younger. I mean, wish I was a little like younger so that I could have been around with. I think really the difference between the people who have completely excelled and younger people coming up behind them is we just didn't have access to the internet. I think if we had access to the internet, things would have been completely different. If I would have had the same grasp of the internet that kids are growing up with now, I'd be coding, making music, writing concertos, all kinds of foolishness, man. Yeah, I can only imagine what I would try to do.
Cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I'll keep you posted when it goes live.
Come on, man. I appreciate you, man. You know it. Keep doing what you do, man. We appreciate you.
All right. Love you, man. Take care.
Bless. Love you.
All right. Peace.
Yeah.